Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Can you imagine a situation where the boss gave you an instruction, and if you do it, you'll set him up? We'll tell you about it in the first story. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Build loads exactly as the tender states. You got it, boss. I work for a logistics company that deals with a ton of building material shipping. We work with some not-so-great companies who love to send us over tenders that are totally wrong. As an example, the subject of the tender email would be NYC to LA, but the actual tender would read NYC to Orlando. I would usually point this out in an email response that CC'd my boss and his bosses, but I guess that was pissing off the higher-ups in my company, so they responded to build them exactly the way the tender reads. I did just what they asked, and for the last week, I've been building wrong loads that no one seemed to realize were wrong. Just a few minutes ago, crap hit the fan. A ton of these deliveries were sent to the wrong place, and some states away from where they should have been sent. I knew this was coming and had already printed out all the emails I had from last week just to cover my butt. I was basically screamed at for building the wrong loads and costing the company thousands of dollars in truck order not used payments. I had a huge crap-eating grin on my face the whole time, and when I was asked to explain myself, I just slid my email printouts forward and said I was just following boss's orders. The looks on their faces when they realized they were the ones that effed up was priceless, and I honestly wish I'd taken a pic to enjoy that for the rest of my life. They sent me back to my desk and are now in the conference room screaming on the phone with the company that's been sending over wrong info. And our second story. But look at how much I saved. In the 1980s, I was working for a company that did custom software development for large companies. All our employees were salaried with full benefits, including paid holidays and vacation. I was an account manager responsible for a bunch of our people working on a project to client site. This was a very important project for our biggest client, generating several $1 million in revenue. It was a good company to work for, and we were very profitable. So profitable that we were acquired by a much larger corporation that had absolutely no experience in our business. Within 6 months, all our senior managers had been forced out. Our branch manager, my immediate superior, was replaced by a guy fresh out of the corporation's management training program. His entire background was in finance and HR. It was late October when he called me in to discuss my account's performance, specifically how our costs were out of control. Item 1 was vacation. He noticed that several of my people had accrued lots of vacation days, and this shows up as a liability on the balance sheet. I explained how this was actually a good thing. When a person takes a vacation day, we have to pay him, but we can't bill the client for his time. Our policy was that people could cash in their accrued vacation at any time. The money we paid them was less than the revenue they generated by working. He explained that was contrary to corporate policy, as people would be paid twice for the same day. Effective immediately, all vacation must be used within the calendar year. It was earned or it would be lost. Item 2 was paid time off. We had no formal policy covering personal and sick days. I told my troops that I expected them to be at work every day, but if they needed to leave early or take a day off for some personal business or because they were sick, I was okay with that, and they'd get paid. But if it became a problem, like the guy who called in sick every Monday because he spent the weekend drinking, or the woman who left every Wednesday to get a manicure, we would take action. While we did have a couple of people who were out sick for a relatively long time, most took 2 or 3 days each year. Sorry, that was against policy. Effective immediately, all employees will receive 5 personal/sick days each year, and again, it was use them or lose them. Item 3 was overtime. He couldn't believe that we were paying salaried people for working OT. I explained that again, this is a good thing. When a client asked our people to work OT, we billed for those hours. Since we'd already factored all our overhead into the hourly billing rate, the profit margin on OT hours was a lot higher than normal hours. He couldn't grasp that. As far as he was concerned, salaried people do not get paid for OT. I said that if we stop paying OT, people will stop working it and we'll lose revenue. He didn't believe that. He assumed that everyone would happily put in the extra time for free. Effective immediately, we would no longer pay for OT. Item 4 was the killer. There was a guy on my project, Rich, who was widely regarded as a true expert on the software platform we were using. He literally wrote a book on the subject and taught a class at the community college. We managed to land this project because we agreed that Rich would be assigned to it. Because he was so good, we were able to bill him out at about twice as much as the other people on the project. His salary was also a lot higher than the others. According to the official corporate salary guidelines, Rich's salary was way above the max for his pay grade. I was told to replace him with someone cheaper. At this point, I knew that arguing was a waste of time. The next day, I told my troops about the new policies regarding vacation, personal time, and OT. They were less than pleased. I reminded them this was the end of October and they had to use all their accrued vacation and personal days before year end. I got our recruiters looking for someone to replace Rich. In mid-December, my new manager asked me again why Rich was still on payroll. I said we were looking for a replacement, but it was impossible to find someone with his expertise and credentials. He said I had to get Rich off the payroll before year end and we'd worry about finding a replacement in January. I gave Rich the bad news. In February, I attended a meeting of all the account managers. In attendance was our area manager, our branch manager's boss. Branch manager proudly reported that he had eliminated OT and the vacation backlog. He'd also reduced headcount. Rich was not the only high-value employee to be let go. Then his boss asked why revenue was down by almost 20%. Branch manager had no explanation and blamed the sales staff. I raised my hand and explained that everyone took their accrued vacation, which for my account alone was more than 200 billable days. Since the new policy went into effect, almost everyone took their 5 days. Finally, the elimination of OT resulted in the loss of almost 20 billable days. Since our average daily billing rate was $500, my account generated $150,000 less revenue than the previous quarter. All the other account managers reported similar numbers. Then I said that my entire project was about to be canceled. We'd missed a key deadline because so many people had taken time off, but the biggest problem was Rich's termination. The contract specifically said that Rich would be assigned as the technical lead. Since he was no longer our employee, we were in breach of the contract and the client was going to pull the plug. Within a week, the new branch manager was transferred to another division in another state where he could happily count paper clips and rolls of toilet paper. And Rich was brought back in as an independent contractor. He knew the position we were in and demanded a considerable increase, driving our profit margin on him to almost zero. But the damage was done. The new policies on vacation and OT remained in effect, and we all started leaving to work for our competition. Within 2 years, corporate shut it down completely. And our last story, a travel from Florida to New York. My father prefers to arrive on time in anything in life. He's a stickler for that kind of thing. Of course, my father arrives on time to his flight. At boarding time, the plane was a bit empty. Something like 2 or 3 rows were empty in the very back, and my father loves to sit in the back because it's less stressful. So there's freedom to choose the seat you want, and my father does so. Bags put in the overhead compartment, empty seats on either side of him, and life is bliss. That is until the plane is delayed. A minor inconvenience, but nothing too detrimental. 5 minutes pass, delayed, then 10 minutes, then 20, then 30. Everyone in the plane is wondering why this damn plane won't take off, and then it happens. A family of 5, which we'll call the A-hats, father, mother, 2 sons, and an infant, board the plane. If you've ever ridden a plane before, you'll understand that this is almost unthinkable. Planes love to take off on time, and even if you're 5 minutes late, you'll not be able to board the plane. So here goes the A-hats boarding the plane 30 minutes after it's supposed to have taken off. No problem. There are plenty of empty seats, so we can finally get rolling. Nope. The A-hats walk directly to my father and the row he's sitting in and say, "These are our seats." Well, of course, my father proclaims that there are a multitude of empty seats and they can just take one of those. Nope. They want their seats on their tickets and weren't having it any other way. Another thing about planes, it's federal law that all passengers must sit in their assigned seats in case of a plane crash. Another thing about planes, it is a federal law that all passengers must sit in their assigned seats in case of a plane crash. All the bodies can be accounted for and identified, although it's not enforced that much. The A-hats must have their seats, so they call over a flight attendant and explain their situation. The flight attendant sides with them, quoting the law and how my father must relocate. Having lost, my father gets up, collects his belongings, and proceeds to move to another seat. The seat he chose? His seat on his ticket, which is about 5 rows up and a middle seat. Only problem is there's already somebody sitting there. He tells the guy that it's his seat and he'd like to sit there now. The guy looks baffled when the flight attendant chimes in and says, "Sir, there are open seats in the back. Why don't you just take one of those?" The F? Obviously outraged at this point, my father then says, "But you just told me to move out of my seat because it was theirs when there were so many seats available. Now when I do the same thing, there's a problem?" The flight attendant just says the same spiel again, but my father doesn't relent. He wants his seat now. He recites the very law she just used against him. The flight attendant, defeated, then asks the guy to relocate as well. This causes a domino effect, and the guy goes to his assigned seat and asks to sit there, so on and so forth, until the entire plane has been rearranged, and this plane is now an hour and a half behind departure schedule. The delay in the flight now sets off some red alerts for airport security and the higher-ups at this terminal, JetBlue I believe. Airport police, upper management, and God knows who else are now at the terminal gate to inquire as to why this plane is still here. They board the plane to talk to the pilot about the delay, and he says that he held the plane to let some late passengers on board. Now, that's against policy because, as stated before, they like planes to be on time. They inquire a bit more as to the situation, and it's all explained by the flight attendant, how they arrived late, wanted their seats, and then the whole plane had to be rearranged. PO'd at that. 1. The pilot held the plane to accommodate the A-hats. 2. The A-hats then had asked for their seats, which caused a domino effect. And 3. It comes out that the A-hats are in fact the pilot's family, brother or something, which caused him to hold the plane in the first place. They asked that the A-hats leave the plane immediately because you should have never been on this plane from the beginning. Reprimand the pilot for abusing his position and indirectly causing this entire fiasco, and refund my father's ticket because of the absurd request by the A-hats. The plane finally takes off 2.5 hours later. My father has a full refund, about $500, and the A-hats have to wait for the next flight. Good flight? I think so. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.